welcome back to Butler on Business. On the phone with us now is our political correspondent, live from the belly of the beast, Chris Marola up in Washington, D.C., Red Momentum Strategies, redmomentum.com. Chris, how are you doing today?
Doing well, Jason. Thanks for the nice intro there. It was good to hear Reagan's voice and a little guitar riff from Eddie Van Halen.
Well, what we're doing for you, since now you're in this segment, you're going to get the political bumpers, and you'll like them. A lot of them with Reagan, a lot of them taking shots at Obama, and then there's some Jimmy Carter in there, and then I'm getting ready to give you a whole bunch of Mitt Romney.
Okay. Well, I'm still waiting for those songs, those 30
Yeah, they're coming in now. Come on. It takes time. It takes time. We are getting them all worked in.
I think I sent those to you back in Easter. Anyway, I'm having fun with you. So here we are. It's almost the 4th of July. But I just wanted to draw your attention to something I noticed recently. A majority of the U.S. People in the U.S. are dissatisfied with the next generation's prospects. You know, this is going to be the very first generation in our nation's history that will not outperform their parents.
Well, Chris, earlier in the week we were actually talking about the American dream. What is the American dream and how that has been compromised recently by, unfortunately, a lot of these policies coming out of Washington, D.C., and I think that fits right into it. The American dream, at least in my opinion, is the prospect that you can better yourself, that you can better the future for your children, and that's becoming more and more difficult.
Right. Taxes are too high. Regulation is too high. You always mention the hidden tax of inflation, which, of course, is sucking away and destroying the buying power of Americans over and over. This just keeps happening. And so, yeah, when my parents came to the U.S. from Italy after living through World War II, and it was the U.S. Army, of course, that saved their lives and liberated their town from the Nazis. They came when they were very young. It was the early 1950s, and everything was wonderful. And the 1950s, of course, were an idealistic time, and jobs were plentiful. My hometown, where we grew up, my wife and I, near Pittsburgh, you could find a job the moment you landed in the U.S. My father, came to the U.S. on a steam liner and got here and got off the ship and immediately started working. It was that easy. Now you could have a PhD and still not find a job. It's a complete opposite. It's a complete shift from where we were 50, 60 years ago. So now, as this is going on, what is our federal government doing? They're wasting money. They're wasting time and energy on frivolous things. We're finding out the federal government is sitting on $70 billion in unspent cash. Senator Tom Coburn found that there's money that's never been spent. That could be returned to the states. That could be returned to you and I through a tax cut or something of that nature. They're sitting on it, doing nothing with it. Now we're finding NASA wasted $43.5 million on some ridiculous telescope that didn't work, so they had to kill the program. Government is just sucking up so much money, so much energy, and so much of our resources. It's no wonder that the next generation doesn't think that they're going to succeed or even outperform their parents.
I will say this. It reminds me of, I like to ride my motorcycle, and one of the areas that everybody is so fond of is called the Dragon, the tail of the Dragon. Up there at Deals Gap, kind of separates the Tennessee-North Carolina border, and we were down there in Deals Gap after coming through the Dragon, and all these people were sitting around complaining about the current generation, our kid, Jason's generation over there, and I listened to them for about 10 minutes, and I finally said, have you ever thought who their parents were?
That's excellent comeback.
And your point about our parents. Well, our parents raised us differently than we have raised our own children, but I have done the old tough love with my kids, and they are the better for it. Both of them are working. Both of them are going through college. Neither one of them have got a federal student loan wrapped around their neck. They've got the work ethic.
Yeah, exactly. Tough love is is a necessary part of life, and yet, unfortunately, since the 60s and so on, people have got this idea that the way to love their child is to coddle and enable and spoil their child. When you do that, you take away all incentive for your child to be responsible, because your mother or your father is going to coddle and nurture you and do everything for you. It's ridiculous. So on one end, you have that going on. Then you have the government playing the role of the coddler and the enabler with another segment of our society. And it's no wonder that things are the way they are. Here's another statistic. 324,000 women dropped out of the labor force in the last 2 months.
Chris, I will, one point. They really didn't drop out of the labor force. They're not being counted anymore. There is a distinction. Those women would like to have a job.
Yes, absolutely. But the point is they're not working.
Exactly. They are in the labor force, but we had the former head of the BLS on a couple of days ago. Was that last week? Hell, time flies when you're having fun. The percentage of the population who is currently employed has been consistent since the trough month of March 2009. Technically, the trough was May of 2009, but it's just who they're counting, who they're not counting. But if you just want to count the ones who actually have a job, it's remained constant for the last 3 years now at 58%.
Well, so that's still not good because it shows no growth. If the economy was growing, then you would increase the amount of people in the workforce. So either way, no matter how you look at it, 6 and 1/2 dozen, or the other, it's still the same difference. Obviously, you're looking at a bad economy. You're looking at a weaker outlook for the future, and it's because the government is in the way, sucking up money and sucking up opportunity and taking it away from the private sector. It's just ironic that some people on the left talk about a war on women coming from the conservatives, when in fact it's the complete opposite. The worst kind of combat or war against women is destroying their economic opportunities in the labor force.
One thing it would help for the central planners to recognize that the economy is not a thing. It is a collection of billions of transactions among millions of people, and we are acting in our own self-interest. Chris, we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Coming up after the break, we're going to be learning a little bit about how the Federal Reserve works, how Ben Bernanke operates from one of the foremost authorities on the subject, economist Dr. Robert Murphy. Stay with us.